everyone. So we start the chapter with an introspective conversation between Ziggy and Aknawilla, and this is another example of the I got no idea where Majin was taking this character kind of situation. Because on one hand, the atmosphere that's seen and Ziggy reflecting back on his memories of raising Shiki, all signs in that respect do point to the idea that Ziggy's final fate is death. Like full stop, he is going to die. But by the end of the series. And it is going to be by Shiki's hand. But on the other hand, seeing this at all does kind of indicate, like not only that there is a little speck of humanity left in Ziggy, but also that there is like a small window, and that there is a small window for him to be reformed. But that there is like a small window for him to be reformed. But even then, it's one of those things where even if he gets reformed, I still think he has to die, because honestly, just within this little chunk in itself and seeing this conversation, a lot of it definitely parallels to like Star Wars and like the relationship between Luke and Vader. Like a lot of it really does feel like that. And it's become, and again, just within this little chunk, it's become more apparent now more than ever honestly, and affirming and knowing just that much, though, we do need to talk about Ziggy reaffirming that he will kill Shiki to prevent him from destroying the galaxy. Like it says cosmos is in the translation, but you could say it's galaxy. And there's only like, in hearing Ziggy's like reaffirmation and that he's going to kill Shiki, there's only one way I've been able to make heads or tails of that statement, which is that the Satan gravity is still even now corrupting Shiki without him even being aware of it. And even more than that, it almost feels like what Ziggy is saying is the more people that Shiki loses, the closer that corruption will push him to do whatever action he's going to take to destroy everything. And that just kind of begs and honestly, that in itself just kind of begs the question, honestly, even more so, of pretty much of what exactly did pretty much Ziggy lose? Like what exactly happened in Ziggy's past in order for him to come back to life with his Satan gravity completely corrupting him? Like what kind of memory was awakened within him where he remembers possibly losing everything, and he ended up as he is now? Like that's the kind of question I want of what caused the Satan gravity within Ziggy to corrupt him. That's my biggest question. Now, let's talk about the battle itself going on, but one specific moment I do want to draw attention to is when Hermit does in a matter of seconds what took apparently years for Holy's research team and the Interstellar army years to develop, which is creating an anti-dragon ether. And granted, as Hermit openly admitted, it was a makeshift version, but yeah, you pretty much saw that look on Holy's face. That was the face of someone who's just realized her opponent is much stronger and more capable than they anticipated. And as Holy readily admits to herself in this chapter, she has completely underestimated the Eden Zero crew. And honestly, in retrospect to seeing how this has all played out thus far, Holy has honestly made the biggest mistake any of the Irashians face, and any opponent of the Eden Zero, any Irashian face Interstellar, or just any opponent in general who's gone up against the Eden Zero crew could ever make. And ironically enough, it's kind of the same mistake Feather made. Holy has underestimated the Eden Zero crew. Holy, I think up to this point, has assumed that for as strong as they have become, they were still the same kids fumbling around in the dark, walking blindly into danger without any comprehension of the risks. And up to this point, despite sharing information with them, Holy has treated them as such, and using that as an advantage, as trying to use that as an advantage to weaken them, even in how she's formulated her own strategy of how to entrap them. But between seeing what Hermit is capable of and Homer's new suit, which we'll get into, if Holy intends to betray the Eden Zero crew, then she's going to have to completely rethink her approach, because they are, in fact, don't get me wrong, they're still reckless, but they're also but they definitely but if there's anything that this chapter proves that they're not as naive and they're not as sloppy in how they act anymore as they once were. And I I do love how this chapter does in fact showcase that as well, like not only with how more in sync the Eden Zero crew actually is as a collective, and how they work together as a team, but also how strong they become as individuals. Like it's something that we have seen in the time skip, but but the one thing that was curious of how they'd handled this kind of a battle. And honestly, the way the way this was shown to us, the way Mashima portrayed this, it really showed that even when it comes to something they're not all that familiar with, like space combat, that is something that even they have gotten better at when it comes to their teamwork, how they work together and whatnot. And while also still showcasing how strong they have become as individuals. Like every single action the crew had taken in this chapter was just so precise, and it didn't feel sloppy at all, to the point where they legitimately have grown as a crew, as a team, and as people. Like that they're not the wholly kind of wholly assumed all this. But now after seeing it, she's realized, I'm gonna have to rethink a lot of my strategy. And I really appreciate that about this. Like, it showed that it's not gonna be easy for her as she thinks, in order to weaken and betray the Eden Zero crew. With all that said, let's get to the big reveal of Homer's new Knight Armor mech suit. And honestly, as someone who was kind of getting a little bit tired of the mech suit combat, particularly in Weiss's battle during the Ellie War arc, this reveal did a pretty damn good job at reinvigorating my love for it, because that suit in itself is just perfect for someone like Homura. It's the perfect combination of everything that represents who she is as a character, while at the same time obviously paying respect to Valkyrie. And it's an example of something that, while Mashima can occasionally fumble with the little details and little things, when he gets them right, he gets it goddamn right. And of course, with the dragons destroyed, our heroes head straight for Lender to begin the operation. But honestly, if you've known Mashima like I've come to know him through this series, then what we just experienced in itself was little more than an opening salvo with this war. Like, everything beyond this point is where things are going to get even harder, more difficult, and more insane. And again, I haven't forgotten that they still have to deal with Crow's massive height advantage, and there's just so many things about the plan from this point onwards where I'm still unconvinced they'll be able to pull this off. Like, I genuinely believe that they could throw everything in the damn kitchen sink at Crow, and it still won't work. And that's not even taking into account the chronophage part of the plan, which, honestly, after this chapter, I'm convinced more than ever that at least to some degree, Ziggy is aware of the plan, or at bare minimum, the part of it that involves the chronophage. Like there's no way that from Ziggy would do all this and not be aware of the chronophage headed in Lender's direction to some degree. So yeah. But yeah, guys, that's pretty much all I got for this review. If you enjoyed the video, like, comment, subscribe. I'm on Twitter, Analyst Crunchyroll. Be sure to hit the notification bell, hit the subscribe button, and just everyone, guys. Dark Knight MMA, signing off. Later, everyone.